Captain America is one of Marvel's most popular superheroes, and he's become more popular than ever since Chris Evans started playing the character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2011.
I like this all day.
By now, pretty much everyone knows the basics of the character. The fact that he was a World War II soldier who had his physical attributes enhanced to the peak of human potential using an experimental serum. But there's actually a lot more than that to the man otherwise known as Steve Rogers. In this video, we'll tell you why Captain America is far more powerful than you ever thought he was. Before we get into the meat of this video, we're going to touch upon a theory which, if it's true, will make you look at Captain America in a whole new light. It relates to that awesome moment in 2018's Avengers Infinity War when Thanos arrived on Earth to take the Mind Stone, and simply waded through the MCU's heroes like a hot knife through butter. But he met some resistance in the form of the courageous Steve Rogers. As the Mad Titan moved his left hand towards Rogers, the hero was able to stop it using both of his hands. If you look at the Mad Titan's facial expression, he's obviously very shocked by the initial block, as though he's thinking, how the heck is this little human able to do this? But what exactly is it that Rogers is doing? You see, this theory suggests he's not exactly physically blocking Thanos' hand. We've already seen the prune-chinned villain totally manhandling the Hulk, and Rogers is definitely not stronger than the Green Goliath.
Puny God.
So could it be that, given that the Infinity Stones work by responding to the will of the user, Rogers, who was in contact with the Gauntlet at that moment, was kind of outwilling Thanos? Could it really be the case that, while none of the Infinity Stones were actively being used, they were instinctively responding to both Thanos and Rogers' wills respectively, with Rogers' will being stronger? In the comic books, Steve Rogers has incredible willpower, and if he has that level of willpower in the MCU, which the aforementioned scene may suggest he does, that certainly makes him even tougher than he realized. But that's a speculative notion, and now we're moving on to the harder facts by discussing some of the superpowers and abilities Captain America possesses that you might not know about. Obviously, the Super Soldier Serum gives Cap incredible speed, strength, and enhanced durability, but did you also know the other physical benefits it grants him? For one, it renders him practically immune to fatigue.
I could do this all day.
Granted, in scenarios involving extreme physical exertion, he will momentarily tire, but ultimately he can keep going and going when others would collapse of exhaustion. But he doesn't get by in a fight just by being a remarkable physical specimen. Oh no. Cap is also very skilled. While it's hard to tell exactly what styles of fighting MCU Cap is an expert in, he's definitely a capable fighter. And if he's anything like his comic book counterpart, he'll be adept in many forms of combat. Comic book Cap is skilled in acrobatics, marine combat, boxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and just about everything else, having spent countless hours honing his fighting skills. Now, all that being said, Captain America is neither durable enough to stop a tank or quick enough to avoid a bullet. But never fear! The Super Soldier's uniform is completely bulletproof, covering him in a lightweight protective shell that most of his enemies don't even know about. It's also completely fire resistant. But rather conveniently, in the event that Captain America does ever get injured, he heals quickly thanks to his super healing powers. For example, the Super Soldier is able to heal from broken bones in a single day and recover from bullet or knife wounds in just hours, if indeed he takes a hit while not wearing his aforementioned armor. He's come back from his fair share of bad injuries very quickly. He once came back from a broken neck after just a week. His healing powers also mean that he's immune to deadly poisons and toxins, as well as all earthly diseases.
I can't get drunk.
Although we'd like to see him tested by drinking some Asgardian booze that was aged for 1,000 years in the barrels built from the wreck of Grunhild's fleet.
Excelsior.
He's often referred to as a
man out of time.
But that's not just because he was thawed out decades after he ended up in ice during the war. It also makes sense because his aging is practically halted. If you think no normal individual could survive being frozen for 70 years, you'd be correct. But Captain America is no normal individual. Now, we've already mentioned that Cap is known for having incredible willpower, and in comics, that often enables characters to resist the effects of mind-controlling or mind-altering powers. Dr. Doom, for example, has such incredible levels of willpower that he can outright resist attempts from telepaths to get into his head. While Captain America isn't that strong-willed, and we've already seen him manipulated by Scarlet Witch in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he does have resistance to some mind-based shenanigans, including hypnosis. This somewhat obscure resistance ability comes from his astounding knack of never losing focus, no matter what, which may also be a contributing factor as to why no gases or other chemicals can affect him either. One of the most surprising superpowers Cap has, which often goes forgotten even by his biggest fans, is his super intelligence. Yeah, that's right, Captain America is actually something of a genius.
It seems to run on some form of electricity.
Along with his body, his mind was massively enhanced by the super soldier Serum. Cap is able to complete lightning-fast calculations and make life-saving decisions in a fraction of a second. Perhaps if Cap wasn't so brave, strong, fast, and durable, everyone would be talking about his ability to analyze threats and quickly react to them in real time. In addition to all of that, Captain America also has a perfect memory. One of the more surprising superpowers Cap has, one that even uber Cap nerds aren't always aware of, is actually super eyesight. It allows him to see further than the average human, process incoming visual stimuli incredibly quickly, and pick out information that may be useful to him and his fellow heroes. Now, for this next amazing ability, we need to warn you in advance that it will involve a spoiler for Avengers Endgame. So, if you haven't seen that movie yet, stop the video now! We're serious. Spoilers ahead.
He's pretty good at that, right?
Okay, if you're still here, we'll assume you've either seen Endgame or you're happy to hear about it. So, here goes. Another incredible ability that Cap possesses is the ability to wield Thor's hammer Mjolnir, a weapon any given individual needs to be deemed worthy of wielding. In 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron, we saw Chris Evans' version of the character slightly budge the powerful weapon. But in Endgame, he finally wields it for real, and it's something he's done on several occasions in the comic books. Cap is worthy because he's a true hero, whose intentions are good, who is pure of heart, incredibly brave, and who would willingly lay his life on the line to save others. Next up, we come to a skill Captain America has that, on the face of it, doesn't seem to be of use in a fight. But it's worth noting nonetheless, and it's the fact that Cap is actually really good at art. It's one of the most overlooked aspects of the character. Seriously, he's incredibly talented, and had he not become Captain America, he would actually have gone to art school. As a matter of fact, one of the more impressive trivia tidbits in Marvel history is that Steve Rogers actually created the Captain America comic book that is published within his own Captain America stories. That's about as meta as it gets. While it obviously isn't a superpower, having such a high level of creativity can only be good for a superhero, as it could contribute to Cap coming up with innovative ways to win battles. Another point worthy of note, or maybe not, is that Captain America has his own vehicle.
I do.
It's not exactly the kind of sweet ride you'd see Batman driving around in, though, to put it that way.
It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
It's a custom-built Chevrolet van, which is apparently designed to look intentionally nondescript from the outside, so it doesn't arouse any suspicion when it's being driven around in public. It was designed by Wakandans, the same guys who made the Avengers Quinjets in the comic books. It does have some additional features, such as a launchable mount for his famous motorcycle, and believe it or not, a cot for sleeping in. Kind of neat, we suppose. To end this video, let's talk about what Avengers Endgame writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely believe is Captain America's true superpower. In a recent interview with the pair, they explained to Screen Rant exactly what they believe his true power is. And the answer goes a long way toward understanding fans' unwavering faith in the iconic star-spangled superhero. Marcus said, "You know, the struggle of being an upstanding person in a fundamentally compromised society. Do you choose to isolate yourself and stand by your values, or do you compromise to fit into current society? And even in those runs, that's his superpower." While McFeely continued by saying he changes the world around him usually, he doesn't usually change. That description of Cap's true power really gets to the heart of the matter.
I can do this all day.
And it does it in a manner that harkens back to the reasons behind Abraham Erskine's decision to choose Steve Rogers as the man to be given the super soldier serum in the first place. It suggests that Rogers was always a hero, and he was also always a man who could be relied on to do what was right. It's just that prior to being granted the serum, he simply wasn't naturally physically equipped to be a superhero.
Somebody get that kid a sandwich.
But the serum gave Steve the ability to do what he had always wanted to do anyway, that being the right thing. Rogers gave Erskine his word that he wouldn't change who he fundamentally was after he became physically powerful, and he truly never has. He remains kind-hearted and principled, just like he always was. He's never been willing to compromise his beliefs in order to fit in, and he would never take the easy way out if he believed it was fundamentally wrong to do so. A prime example of which came when he refused to abide by the Sokovia Accords in Captain America: Civil War. With that in mind, Rogers not only doesn't change, he also helps to change society for the better, and that quite possibly is his greatest ability. And not his amazing strength, speed, or so forth. Captain America is currently starring in the awesome Avengers Endgame, and if you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely do so as soon as possible. Did you know all of this cool information about Captain America? Are you in agreement that he's more powerful than you initially realized? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to both like the video and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great content just like this. See you next time.